All right, Jay. So switching from the NCAA tournament to the NBA, let's go to LA. Things are not looking too good in Paradise, the city of angels. And I'm not talking about the LA Lakers. I'm talking about the Los Angeles Clippers, who have fallen to fourth in the West, 25-15 record. Jay, they have dropped 5 of their last 7, 6 of their last 9, and 10 of their last 19 since February
2nd. Yeah.
February 2nd. So sounding off on this after their last game last night, getting routed by the New Orleans Pelicans and Zion Williamson, Kawhi Leonard expressed that he was very concerned about this team because of their lack of consistency and their lack of physicality, which is something that Tyronn Lue, the head coach, also mentioned as well. So given how they're playing now, given that it's still February, but these, they're a below 500 team over the last month and a half, should we be as concerned about the Clippers as Kawhi and Ty Lue are concerned about their team?
Yes, we should. Sure, this team is quote-unquote built for the playoffs, but the biggest problem you run into with this team is that they've never actually done anything in the playoffs. So, as built for the playoffs as they are, they're not showing it. We've never seen it. We've never seen them close out. And to be honest, as far as the playoffs go, right now, based upon what their standings, you said 4th, correct?
Correct, for now.
If they're 4th right now, guess who they match up against?
The 5th seed, who is that?
The Denver Nuggets.
Yes.
Again. And that's one team they do not want to see again.
Nope.
Especially the way Jokic is playing. I was watching Highly Questionable earlier today, and Bomani Jones had mentioned, based upon the advanced metrics, Nikola Jokic is playing like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like Michael Jordan. Like he's putting up some ridiculous stats as far as the advanced stuff, and he's affecting the game in so many ways that the Clippers won't have a chance of beating them. They will lose that series in 5. They shouldn't have lost last year, and they lost in 7. But the way that he's playing, they will lose in 5. And so I have no faith in the Clippers. If they do match up with the Nuggets, they need to find a way to get to either the 3 seed or the 6 seed and play against either they need to play against either the Blazers or first round, go ahead and just give us them versus the Lakers and call it a day. That's about all they got going for themselves.
Right. Because
they're not going to surpass Utah. They're not going to surpass Phoenix, which is balling. CP3 is the difference maker. But overall, yeah, Kawhi should be concerned. Kawhi is still, of course, hurt. We don't know what he's going to look like long term, especially once we get the playoffs. Paul George is Paul George. Playoff P never shows up in the playoffs ever since he left Indiana. So I think that their locker room issues are probably going to be something that's going to bleed over into the playoffs. I'm just hoping that Tyronn Lue can right this ship beforehand. But as Kawhi mentioned, consistency is their problem. And if they can't get consistent, they're not beating the Denver Nuggets.
Jay, they have 3 major problems, one of which they mentioned. 2 of them, I'm not sure can be fixed in time enough to make a playoff run. One of them potentially might be able to be fixed, but it may not matter at that point. So they mentioned physicality as far as what the team lacks consistency in. And in order for them to become a more physical team, they're going to need more physical players. So when you think about it, they need a bruiser like Andre Drummond, probably worse than the Lakers do right now. But they're going to be competing for his services because he is sought after. Outside of bringing in new players, this team overnight or over a month is not going to become more physical because they don't play that way. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, they're not going to become more physical. Ibaka's not going to become more physical. That's just not going to happen. So if they lack consistency in that area, it's not going to be fixed unless you bring in a player who's known for physicality. Zubac is not going to turn into Charles Oakley overnight, right? So that's going to continue to be a huge problem, which means that if physicality is a problem, it means they're getting bullied underneath. So that's not going to change. Second, who is the leader of this team? It can't be Tyronn Lue. It could be, but it's not because he's only there because Kawhi and Paul George want him there, and he's a rookie head coach. Obviously, Paul George tried to be the leader of this team by being more vocal, and he said the wrong things. So he can't be the leader of this team. Kawhi doesn't talk. He can't be the leader of this team. You would say Patrick Beverley, but on how many teams is the third. I don't even know if he's probably the fourth or fifth best player on this team. He can't be the leader. So they have this leadership void that I don't know how they're going to fill it. But you have to have that going into the playoffs. You need it right now because teams that have strong leadership do not go through stretches like this. There may be a team who loses 3 in a row or 3 out of 4. The Nets have done that this season. The Lakers have done that this season. But ultimately, you right the ship in part because the leader makes everybody step up their game or else. They don't have that. Lastly, metrics-wise, they're one of the worst teams in crunch time, which I believe actually is a carryover from the bubble, where when the game was on the line, the last 3 or 4 minutes, especially in the fourth, they became a completely different team that could not get the job done. That might be able to be fixed. That may be more scheme. That may be more, I don't know, maybe shifting the ball to different players. But, I mean, it's confidence. Crunch time is all about confidence. Can you believe when the pressure is on that you can make the play? So I think a big part of that is coaching. So those 3 things combined, the physicality, the leadership, and the crunch time issues makes me very concerned about this team and very concerned about the fact that I picked them to win the championship, and they may not get out of the first round against the Nuggets.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, are you still going to continue to stick to that
I'm going to stick to it, but I'm not confident at all. I mean, this was perfect for them. The West was there for the taking because the Lakers aren't what they were last season because AD's injury and because they have coming into the season off of such little rest, them and the Miami Heat.
Right.
So it was there for the taking. I know that the Suns are much better with CP3. I know the Nuggets were the ones who put him out last season, and they really haven't lost much. But this was their year to be that top 1, top 2 seed, which they were for a stretch. But what they're going through right now, this isn't nothing. If this was just 4 or 5 games, and then they were able to turn it around after that, nobody remembers this.
Yep.
But 10 out of 19 since early February, that's ridiculous for a team with 2 All-Stars.
It really is, and they both played for the most part in those games. I think Kawhi has set out some of the back-to-backs, in which, if I'm correct, some of the back-to-backs that he set out, they've actually won those games. So having both him and Paul George on the court has not really been as successful as we expected. And this is kind of something I mentioned. Paul George has signed that extension. He is locked in with that team.
Right.
That does not mean he is going to be locked in with that team. It makes it even easier for them to trade him if they need to. He's locked in for a few more years. So with that, if they feel like they need to go after a big name player, and they need to just swap them around and get us and give Kawhi Leonard some help and give some assurance to Kawhi Leonard that they are focused on winning today, Paul George is gone. Like, as much as PG wants to be the man and be the guy that they will want to rally around with him and Kawhi, there's a great chance that they will trade Paul George and pick up someone else. I don't know who they could go get to help. They need another wing that can score consistently and play defense, which Paul George still can do both for the most part, but they need someone another level up, and I don't know who that next level up could be.
Would Victor Oladipo qualify as that kind of a player?
I don't think he would be that. I don't think you replace Paul George with Victor Oladipo. I think you trade for Victor Oladipo
that's what I'm saying. Like,
and add him.
They add him.
Well, see, here's the issue you also run into with the Clippers. What assets do they have to trade?
Oh, nothing.
Exactly. They've given everything away to Oklahoma City, and there are rumors that the Clippers are looking at George Hill from Oklahoma City. But I'm asking the questions. What the hell do you give up?
To do what with?
They need another guard. Give him a real point guard.
He hasn't played in like 2 months.
Yeah, because he had surgery on his thumb. I actually watched him yesterday when I was at the arena working the Grizzlies game. I watched him out there. He was getting his workout in, but you saw the cast and all the wrappings around that wrist. So the question you have to ask yourself is he going to be ready to even play in the next couple of weeks?
Here's a name for you. Again, and this is still marred by the issue that they have no assets. But, one player who's out there on the block is Toronto's Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now, so someone like him, I think he would be perfect because that solves your leadership issue because he is a leader.
Yeah.
He's a champion. Kawhi won a championship with him in Toronto.
Yep.
And I think that, as small as he is a very physical player. He's got that Philadelphia mentality where he's from. So I think somebody like him, as funny as it sounds, could be perfect. I don't think that they can get him because they have nothing to give up for him.
That's what I was going to ask. The question
like
is who do you give up to get him? You don't have any assets on your team to give. And you're pretty high up there on the cap, so there's no way you have the money.
What if you start with, you give him Lou Williams. How about Lou Williams? Give him Serge Ibaka back in exchange for Kyle Lowry.
Not enough money.
Or, we'll add another couple of players aside because I think Toronto wants to give the ball to Fred VanVleet.
Yeah.
And Serge Ibaka, they know him very well because he won a championship there. So maybe something like that might be enough to entice him. That hurts your bench, but it might solve some of your issues that you're having right now with your starting five.
Yeah, looking at the comparisons on this, so Kyle Lowry makes $30 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
Never mind.
So your trade, if you're trying to get this man, you have to either send Patrick Beverley with Lou Williams and Serge Ibaka, and then probably Marcus Morris Sr. also.
You can't do
That's just under $30 million. That's about that's $30 million. No, actually, you know what? You can do it. Patrick Beverley, Serge Ibaka, and Lou Williams.
I'll do it. I'm doing it. I'm in.
That's the only trade you got that's available to get a player. But then at that, you just sacrificed your bench. You need Lou Williams. Mm-hmm. You need someone that can score off the bench. You can't have all three of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Kyle Lowry on the court.
And we let Landry Shamet go to Brooklyn, right?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, Luke Kennard.
Right. Is there any way to fix this then? I'm trying to think of things that they can do if they watch the show that might help them to fix this, but is there anything viable that they can do to fix this?
You got to think about what players are going to be available in free agency. I mean, honestly, they could try to go after like LaMarcus Aldridge. Mm-hmm. He'll be available sometime soon. And San Antonio's trying to trade him. But there's no way they're going to trade him. They're going to have to figure out a buyout and just let the dude walk. Andre Drummond is, of course, another piece that you could consider. I don't know. It looks like they don't have their. They do have some trade exceptions, so they could suck in some money if they really need to.
Okay.
So that's 4, 5, 6. Looks like about $7 million roughly in trade exceptions, so they can receive a whole bunch of money.
They've got to make a move. Ballmer is a very aggressive owner.
Yeah, he's got money. He's worth $90 billion.
He knows that the team that he has right now is not good enough to beat. They're not good enough to beat the Lakers, the Nuggets, and probably the Suns either.
Or the Jazz.
Yeah,
so they're going to have to add some pieces. And that's the thing. I don't know what it is. I would say, I mean, it'd be interesting for them to go down to New Orleans and get Lonzo Ball because he is having a breakout season. He is having the season we were hoping he would have even before.
But that doesn't solve their physicality or their leadership issue.
Well, no, the leadership issue it's going to fall on Ty Lue. That's why you hire a guy like Ty Lue. You get him to be your leader because Kawhi Leonard's so silent. He's more of the relationship between Ty Lue and Kawhi Leonard needs to be the same way it was with Pop and Tim Duncan. And Kawhi Leonard understands that. He should understand that. Ty Lue should be just yelling at everybody, and Kawhi should be receiving being yelled at and then just continue to play. He knows that is more of an example to certain players than others. Marcus Morris is kind of a mouthy guy. He should be able to rally the troops as well. But, I mean, the biggest issue is really Paul George and accountability. I mean, he's the reason why a lot of players complain. So, we'll see what they do, but I don't see that there's anything that can help them out. I think we're done. So.